Mr. Johnson is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zackheim, I hadn't had the pleasure of working with you. I got here a little late after you left. I'm glad you're back. In your testimony, you asserted that the FY22 budget's top-line request is inadequate to support the national defense strategy, of course, and you correctly pointed out that the top-line figure actually represents a cut from FY21 levels because it fails to keep pace with inflation, which is skyrocketing. And you've called for a 3 to 5% annual increase in line with the 2018 National Defense Strategy. So I was just going to see if you could expound a little bit more in what will be some of the real-world impacts of not funding our military at that target level of 3 to 5% annual growth.
Well, Congressman, thanks for the opportunity to answer that question. What I've been trying to outline today is we are faced with a serious tension between deterring today and making investments I think everybody on this panel agrees we need to make to prevail in a conflict with China in the future and to deter them in the future, and that the force needs to change. The question is, how much risk are we willing to absorb today, and whether it will be self-defeating because it would invite an adversary to exploit that vulnerability. The $37 to $52 billion that you would get this fiscal year at a 3 to 5% would allow you to mitigate some of that risk while also increasing investments for the future. And it's important, Congressman, to keep in mind that we're not just talking about a one-off for this year, but it actually put you on a trajectory that year over year would compound and give you additional dollars for investment. And I just want to make one more point on 3 to 5% real growth. Even if this Congress were to fund this number, it would still be below the 4% GDP threshold that many people point to. A 3% growth would be 3.6% GDP, 5% growth would be 3.7% GDP. By contrast, as I mentioned before, in 1985, the Congress authorized and appropriated 5.7% GDP dealing with the challenge of the Soviet Union.
And speaking of the 80s, you said earlier that China is really a greater threat than the Soviet Union was at the height of the Cold War, because not only do they have this great military prowess now, but also the economic power as well. And so it occupies a lot of our attention for obvious reasons. Of course, their goal is to become a world-class military, and I think that's their term, by the end of 2049. But you note that the annual dollar value of the PLA procurement is on course to surpass ours by 2024. That's tomorrow, in my estimation. So in your view, where is China in this mission that they've stated to become world-class by 2049? Are they ahead of schedule?
I mean, they're rapidly progressing. They're doing everything, as far as we can tell, to pursue that. That it's not a hollow statement, but it's something that they're actually trying to achieve. We'll see if they realize it. We need a cost-imposing strategy. We need to demonstrate that to them that their investments will be thwarted, that they need a new approach if they're going to challenge us or our allies. And that's the essence of the competition. But make no mistake, I'm not trying to make them 10 feet tall, but they're in pursuit of becoming 10 feet tall, and we need to compete with them along the way.
And they're not exactly engaging in full transparency, so we don't know what's going on behind the closed doors and everything they're planning and plotting and spending. Despite its flaws, one of the areas in the budget request that I was pleased to see was the full funding of nuclear modernization efforts, and this has come up this morning. Because of some of the shortcomings elsewhere in the budget request, the inadequate top line, reductions in aircraft procurement, et cetera, does that give the nuclear modernization elements an even greater level of importance?
Well, I think nuclear modernization has a heightened level of importance in this national defense strategy, because as we try to shift investments to the future, as we recognize that we need to push platforms out of Europe or the Middle East into the Indo-Pacific, the way we assure and deter is through our nuclear weapons, full stop. So we need to modernize them, because if they don't work, then we lose that deterrence. That's true. I think the administration does a great job in FY22. I would encourage this committee to exercise strict oversight over the nuclear posture review, because they may be going in a different direction, but those are facts not yet in evidence.
Very good. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.